How to Live Life and Love IT by Genevieve Behrend. Forward. The purpose of this series of personal pointer lessons, which are herein compiled into one volume, is to indicate in a clear, concise way the natural principles governing the relation between the creative action of all thought, power, and material things, that is, circumstances and conditions. If these few simple principles are carefully studied and mastered to your satisfaction, and then put into practical, hourly application, the student will find very soon that it is possible for man to make conscious contact with the almighty, ever-present, never-failing God, and this just naturally means individual freedom. Freedom from every form of limitation and bondage of any nature. Read Mark 9:23. Then try to believe that the Spirit of life, which is your life also, knows how to live life and love it. All the joy life has to give is yours right now. Let us start on the highway to unqualified success now. God is our guide, your loving companion. Genevieve Behrend. Chapter 1, Live Life and Love IT. Master, let us begin this morning's lesson with the certain knowledge that every living thing really wishes to enjoy life. Once one really has entered into the true spirit of life, that one cannot help loving to live and is certain to enjoy life. Pupil, that is just it. If one could get into the spirit of living life, I am sure everyone, would enjoy it. But it seems to me that the general run of humanity live in the spirit of death rather than of life. The average person I know is always wishing that he could, but at the same time knowing that he can't. That does not seem like really living. Master, indeed that is not living, and people who live in that form of mental action are the living dead. Let us see if we cannot find an easy, logical method of entering into the true spirit of life. We know that we must enter into the spirit of a book, or a picture, or of music, else they are entirely meaningless to us. To really appreciate anything, we must share the mental attitude of the creative thought and feeling which brought them into outward form. Pupil, now I am wondering if getting into the spirit of a thing would be getting into the spiritual prototype of the thing we may wish to enjoy. For example, I should very much enjoy a home of my own, a husband and children. Can one really get into the spirit of these good things before one does have them, or before one can see them in form? Master, I am pleased that you mention the spiritual prototype is the spiritual or mental purpose of a thing, and is the true place of origin of anything. So you wish a home, husband, children. Pupil, yes, a home in the country, not a large house, one just large enough that we can live in every room of it. Master, the house is to be the home? Pupil, why yes, of course, Master. I ask this, you see, because just a house may not always be a home, while a mere tent may be. Your prototype for the home would be protection, shelter, freedom. To begin at the beginning, let us get into the feeling of perfect protection, shelter, freedom. Let us really feel in tune with these qualities of spirit, and they in their turn will attract unto us the ways and means for the home. Pupil, so far I have been jumbling everything together in my thought. Should I not take each thing separately and try to enter into the spiritual origin or purpose of that one thing before going on to another? Master, by all means finish planting one thought securely in the mind before trying to introduce another. After you have really tuned into the feeling of protection, shelter, security, freedom, then begin to mentally build your house and people it with a husband and children. Thus you are making a mental picture of the forms you wish the creative energy to take. Be specific and accurate in making your mental picture, remembering that the mental picture you make is the mold into which the unformed spirit is poured for solidifying into actual, outward form. The house itself may be a bungalow, or a two-story house, or may be of brick, or stone, or wood, or what not. It may have any number of rooms, doors, windows, a fireplace, etc. In other words, you must first mentally blueprint your house. When your mental picture is perfectly finished, and your feeling is that these things are yours now, and you know that your mind is in perfect tune with the source of all things, then, and not until then, are you ready to take the next step into the attainment of your desires. Pupil, but the matter of the right husband, that seems very difficult for me. First, I am not in the right position to contact men, and now I have only 2 men acquaintances, neither of which I should care to live with in my model home. Master, what you say does not enter into the matter at all. All that the individual does is to place into the originating creative power the quality one wishes to differentiate, just as one plugs into the electric current in the house when one wishes to use it. The light, the heater, the Frigidaire, the fan, the iron, or any other thing one may want to use, all are there. All of the power is already there too. It is ready and waiting. All that is necessary is your recognition of it, and your taking action to utilize it. Your recognition and your desire cause you to make the right contact, and the power that is there does all the rest. The ways and means of your meeting the one and only husband are not your own concern. They form themselves into line automatically as a result of your turning on the correct switch. Pupil, do you mean that it is not necessary for me to do anything to try to meet people? Do I not have to go to parties or visit friends? Sometimes when I should be much happier at home, I go to such places and do such things because there is always a chance of meeting the right one there. Master, all of that is entirely unnecessary. The power you have turned on within yourself is an attracting power, remember. To give you an example, one time when we were in Chicago living at the Medina Athletic Club, a young lady came to me with much the same attitude that you express and received the same answer I give here. She was a trained nurse, a graduate of St. Luke's. She was tired of living alone, wished a home, a husband, children. After she had had 10 or 12 personal interviews and lessons with me, I told her, one morning as she was leaving our apartment, that it would not be necessary for her to come to see me again. She felt sure also that the contact had been made. Our apartment was on the 42nd floor, and as she caught the elevator down, she said a great wave of peace and contentment came over her. In her heart she had the consciousness of love and protection, even now. At the 34th floor the elevator stopped, and a young man who was very ill got into the elevator. Almost at once he folded up on the floor, unconscious. The elevator operator knew him since he had an apartment in the building, and the nurse and operator together got the man back to his apartment, into bed, and sent for the house physician, who said that the nurse had done exactly the right thing. In about an hour the man regained consciousness and sent for his own physician, who wished to assign a nurse of his own choosing to the case, but the patient insisted on having the nurse who had helped him from the elevator, and kept her in attendance on him until he was fully recovered. Just about 6 months later, patient and nurse were married. Pupil, that was certainly a lucky break for her, that she should take just that elevator, at that time. That seems to me like drawing the lucky number on bank night at the theater. Of course someone always wins, but there is no certainty about it, is there? Master, really the 2 positions are not at all parallel. They are not even similar. With the nurse it was not luck at all. Deliberately, consciously, in faith, she had plugged into a circuit of great power within herself, the circuit of universal power that we call God, or life, and which did produce a perfect reciprocity of feeling and a certain sense of security, protection, provision, companionship. In other words, she deliberately initiated a train of causation directed to her individual purpose. To quote Troward, just as you would attach the cord to your electric iron if you wish to press clothes. There was no luck in the matter whatsoever. It was purest science manifesting, as it always will and does, in answer to a strong desire scientifically placed. Whether it is plugging into a circuit of electric energy or tuning in with the creative life principle, the procedure is exactly the same. Pupil, I am beginning to see the light, but the case you have just told me about still seems rather spectacular and unusual. Master, that is because you have not trained the objective quality of your mind to know that it can always trust the intelligent creative spirit of life within yourself. You are letting preconceived ideas, and shallow and false ones, take precedent in your mind over pure scientific principle. You do not feel that you need to know the principles of electricity before you can use your vacuum cleaner. All we know about electricity is gleaned from what we see it do. The same thing applies to life. The innermost principles of life will always remain a profound mystery. But one can and should live life to the full in the self and love it. Pupil, I am wondering if the nurse lived happily ever after with her unusually acquired husband, and did they have the home and the children she so much desired? Master, the couple have lived very happily together for a number of years now and do have a comfortable home and 3 children. I shall explain more of that later. The secret of living life and loving this. First, your feeling towards the livingness of life in you, as well as in all life everywhere, should be to recognize life as intelligent and to know that when this intelligence is working through you, it does not change its essential nature. It has always been a receptive power that is amenable to suggestion, and it is always responsive and creative. This is the basis of Troward's meaning in his words, which I use for my own favorite affirmation, and which, quoted, is this: my mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression, and this means the production of something beyond what has gone before, something entirely new, not included in past experience, though proceeding out of it by an orderly sequence of growth. Therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate in the same manner in me. Consequently, in my own special world, of which I am the center, it will move forward to produce new conditions, always in advance of any that have gone before. Once you really plug your individual consciousness into the great power of the universe, the above will be your line of thinking. You will involuntarily look to the life principle in you, not only as the only creative energy, but also as a directive power. That is, you will let God determine, through your conscious mind, the actual forms and courses, which the conditions for its manifestations will always take in your own individual world. Do remember always that the originating spirit of life, of your life too, is forever a forming power. It is for this reason that we should use such great care in the selection of our habitual thoughts and feelings, for create they will, and always. Pupil, how may I know, for example, that my true husband is being guided to me, or I to him? Master, by your feeling of certainty, even though outward conditions show no sign of the fact. Still you are sure. You feel close, you know you are protected. You feel the influence of love all about you. You have stimulated these special qualities of life in your individual world by your having persistently looked to God, knowing that He does manifest in you. Your mental attitude of faith and trust and expectancy has attracted all the joys of life. You realize that all that life has to give is present with you now, just as all that light has to give is present wherever light is. Pupil, do I understand that if I live as closely as possible in the consciousness of reciprocity of feeling, and know that love is guiding, protecting, and providing for me with its abundance, I can attract these qualities of life in the form of a man? Master, yes. For the house and the home feel protection, shelter, perfect harmony. For the husband feel love and joy, then live in the feeling of these things. Feeling is one of the strongest elements in life, and is also the most responsive. Chapter 2. the fine art of giving. Pupil, it seems to me that the pace you are setting here is going to be rather severe discipline for me. But since it is to be for only a few weeks, if I wish, I shall try it. If there is not a big change for the better, both inside and out, at the end of that time, I can stop. N'est-ce pas? Master, yes, but please do not enter lightly upon this study. And do not seek to cultivate an acquaintance with God for the sake of what you will be able to get from Him. This is a tragic mistake that many people make, and which is difficult for many of them to rectify. They seek first to get, and promise faithfully that they will then give. But in so doing they have inverted the Spirit's law of compensation, which is good, which is as just as it is good, and which is as immutable as it is both good and just. Pupil, this sounds interesting. What is this great law? Master, the law is that first we must give, and after we have given the getting automatically follows, just as day naturally comes with the rising of the sun. But the getting of anything good never precedes the giving of something of value. True giving, giving with love as unto God Himself, cannot possibly impoverish anyone, nor can withholding from the Spirit and its service ever truly enrich one. Verily, 'tis more blessed to give than to receive. Giving as unto God opens wide the sanctuary of Jehovah within us, in which we may always find peace. Giving makes of the giver a direct channel for the transmission of infinite love and power into one's daily, hourly life. Then will adversity flee, and certain achievement of all things whatsoever you will follows immediately. But, I repeat, first you must give. Pupil, but what can we give to God if He already has everything? Master, we can give Him the one thing of which He does not have too much, of which He can never have too much, of which we can never hope to give Him too much. The one thing that God wishes us to give Him, first, last and always, is nothing less than the greatest gift in the universe. Now what is it? Pupil, I am sure that it is love. Master, right, but just what is love? Pupil, why, God is love. Master, that is correct too. But if God is love, what is God? And if love is God, what is love? Pupil, is this a parable? What is love? What is God? That's just what I would like to know too. Tell us, please. Master, just what God is, just what love is, each person must answer for himself. For after all, your own conception of God and of love is God, and I's love to you. But perhaps we can set forth a few thoughts that may prove helpful, and which will be practical. To some, love is passion, and can only be conferred upon, or come from, the opposite sex. To some, love is the tenderness of a mother for her child, or of a doting father for his brood. To others, love is the love of friends, parents, or orphans, and there are some who love themselves most of all. But real love is love of God, and for God. To love Him is the first commandment. And if one keeps this great commandment, there is no need of any other commandment. For if we really do love God, which is the first and greatest of the commandments, we automatically keep inviolate all the others. Pupil, but is it enough to just love God with all of our hearts, all of our souls, and all of our minds? Must we not do something about it as well? Master, certainly we must do something about it. Love without the fruits of love is dead. If we love God, we will serve Him devotedly, faithfully, happily, continuously. Pupil, how best may we serve Him? Master, by giving of ourselves to our fellowmen, by giving of ourselves to our neighbors as unto ourselves. A scientist, one like Dr. Walter Reed for example, who gives his very life, and lovingly and gladly, in order to benefit mankind, knows the true love of God. So does the heroic nurse who ministers to afflicted mankind out of sheer love of mankind. So does the self-effacing, self-sacrificing mother, or father, or teacher, or minister. There are many ways in which one may serve. All do not possess scientific talents, nor healing talents, nor comforting talents, but all do possess something they can give. Some who feel themselves unable to serve directly give of themselves by donating money to worthy causes, and these too are serving God because they love their neighbors and therefore love Him. Let me give you an example of true love as I personally knew it in a wonderful woman, one of many cases that I know. Pupil, yes, do give us an example. They always help to clarify things and show us how others have done what we wish to do. Master, very well. This divine soul was reared in a home of great wealth and culture. But as a very young woman, she made up her mind to go out into the world, on the firing line itself, as she called it, to serve actively, lovingly there. She became a nun, and as such was assigned to a hospital as a trained nurse. As she entered upon her life work, she was filled with love for mankind, with enthusiasm for serving God by serving His suffering ones. And she did serve lovingly, happily, faithfully, tenderly 8 hours a day, or even 12 hours, daily. But the hospital was woefully understaffed, and Marie, as we shall call her here, was soon subject to call 16 hours daily, and even during the 8 hours when she was supposed to have her rest, she was often summoned and asked to serve more. Her quarters were right on the same floor with many of the patients, and this ward was her charge day and night. Often at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, the bell beside her bed would ring with an urgent summons. She would arise at once, go to the patient and minister to his or her wants. But in due time, she became physically tired, and of course she began to resent the calls that broke into her rest, especially when it seemed to her, as it often did, for a month or more these trials went on, seemingly from bad to worse. Marie resolved almost desperately to do something about it, and immediately. So she cast about for a way to best remedy the situation. For days she thought about the matter, asking the Spirit for guidance. At length the flash came, directly from the Infinite. She took up a little card, wrote down the new motto that had been given her, and fastened it on the wall above her bed, right by the service bell, so that she might see it and be again reminded every time the buzzer rang. On the card she had written, "The Master calls." Of course her system worked from the beginning. Quite soon she was saying in immediate answer to the bell, even while sleepily fumbling for her light, "The Master calls." And she would arise and go and serve, without impatience, without resentment, yes, rejoicing in the opportunity to again serve in love. As a consequence, her energy was untiring. She easily and joyfully did the work of 3 nurses, always rested, always fresh, always efficient, always smiling whenever called. Her patients loved her greatly. She was always cheerful, always encouraging, always aglow, as it were, with a holy love. And to those who did not know her secret, as very few did, the patients she attended seemed to be miraculously healed. Let your motto also be, "The Master calls," and remember that the humblest service that you can render to the lowliest of your fellow men, if rendered in love, is a direct service to Him. Pupil, this is a profoundly beautiful and powerful illustration. Is that the motto or the principle that you use in helping the many who come to you? If not, what is your own personal secret of serving? Master, my own method, in a way, is very similar to that of Marie. Like her, I wish to serve lovingly, to serve as many as possible, to help to the limit of my powers in alleviating any and all kinds of suffering, physical, mental, spiritual, or other form of unhappiness. Not only do I strive always to help those who seek me out, every person whose hand I take into mine in greeting, every person into whose eyes I look, in all places at all times, yes, even the shop girl who sells me my hose, the milkman who comes to my door, the beggar on the street, everyone to whom I speak at any and all times receives the same strong spiritual impulse from me. I intentionally see the radiant Christ in all. Pupil, but I thought that you told me once you never mentally treat people unless they ask for help. Master, I don't, not specifically under any other circumstances. My secret is this. I have deliberately formed the habit of beholding the Christ in every soul that my eyes fall upon. I do not ever see anyone as being poor, or old, or ill, or bereaved, or lonely, or homely, or evil or imperfect in any way. I behold each and all as only perfect. I see only the radiant Christ in every one of them because the Christ is in each of them. Chapter 3. The Art of Reciprocity. Master, the Bible, the sages of all time, all sources of real truth, unite in absolute agreement concerning one great thing, namely, that God and man are one and not two, that the two are not separated, but indissolubly joined in perfect and harmonious union. The invisible spirit and the visible form or matter actually are inseverably connected. Each is a complement of the other, and the whole of truth is to be found only in the combination of the two, which really are not two but one through eternal union. Pupil, I am particularly happy about this conclusion, because I used to think that a person could not have both spiritual and physical blessings at one and the same time. I thought that the physical world had nothing of God in it. Yes, I thought that spirit was utterly separated from form or matter. Now I feel sure that the reason I did not make any real progress then was that I was trying to have an inside for life without an outside, and an outside without any inside. In other words, I was simply living in the physical world without being conscious of the fact that forever I have a direct connection with the spiritual realm. I am right, am I not, in believing and feeling that I must have the realization that each is vitally necessary to the other for the formation of a substantial entity. Master, yes, you are exactly right. No one can go very far on the great highway of truth until he realizes that there never was, and never will be, an inside to anything without an outside also. While one is visible and the other invisible to the human eye, the only reality is in the combination of the two. A constant awareness of this fact on our part brings us that radiant realization of oneness, of union, that we must have if we hope to make any progress in truth. Pupil, after this one basic realization, what other truths must we have? Master, we must know that underlying the totality of all things is the source of all things, the great cosmic intelligence. We must know that no physical thing of itself only can ever create anything. The physical form is the instrument that life God fashioned of his own essence in order to have something through which he could work his wonders and give them form also. But he always lives in that instrument. Do not ever lose sight of this fact. The power is always greater than the form through which it manifests, just as electricity is infinitely greater than the bulb through which it manifests as light. It is through union of forms, positive with negative, or masculine with feminine, or spirit with soul, that the creation of all forms, or channels, or physical things, results. This eternal principle runs all through the Bible, is the warp and woof of it, the whole substance of it. Seek ye the answer in that great book. Pupil, but many people say that the Bible is antiquated, that it is a book of fables, and of old wives' tales, etc. Master, how does this concern you? Which is the more reliable guide, do you think? The spiritually darkened ones who criticize the Bible, or thine own soul which knows light when it sees it? Are you going to do your own thinking, or shall you be content to let others do it for you, and wrongly? If we must go to other people in our quest of truth, let us resolve to go to ones who have the light of the Spirit. For instance, what does Troward say of the Bible? Let his wisdom be our guide here. He tells us that the Bible is the book of the emancipation of man. He adds that this means man's complete deliverance from sorrow, sickness, poverty, struggle, uncertainty, from ignorance and limitation, and finally from death itself. This noble conception of Troward's is exactly what the Bible says. With such a wonderful book in print, one should not be surprised to learn that it has the widest circulation of any book ever published, that it is still the world's bestseller. If the Bible were not truth, it would not live through so many generations and still hold its preeminent position. So let us proceed on the assumption that Troward is right, that the Bible does contain the secret whereby the art of living a perfectly free and happy life may be attained. Pupil: but the Bible has never been a very interesting book to me. I have thought of it as old-world fables. Master, it was uninteresting to you because you did not understand it. Nevertheless, it is a most scientific book, full of interesting facts and life-giving truth, the finest book ever written about the greatest of all the sciences, the science of life. Pupil, my parents were religious people, church every Sunday morning, prayers every day, and all of that. But I could never see that they were any better off, or any happier, if as happy, than the neighbors who never went to church. But I shall be glad to make an honest effort to understand and follow whatever you outline, even the Bible if you say so. Master, I have spoken. And because you are honest in your desire, you will be honest in your thinking, and honest thinking makes a true student. Because you truly wish to understand the art of living, you shall come to know it, and when you know life and really live it, you are certain to love it. The Bible is, I repeat, the book of life, and of life's immutable laws. Remember always that life's laws contain within themselves the solution to every human problem. Indeed, wisdom is the beginning of magic, the Spirit of Christ, or intelligent life, within us is the light of each of us. It will always make the path easy, interesting, and joyous, if only we will study and understand how to use our own divine power, and then really use it. Once one has formed the habit of looking to the Bible for the answer to all problems, it becomes to that one as a lantern carried on a dark night. The next steps ahead may be in total darkness, but when you approach the light you carry illuminates the path, and you know exactly where to step, and just what to do. Your feeling is influenced in the right direction. It is true that the Bible veils its most profound secrets in symbols and parables, but the wisdom is there for the earnest and consecrated seeker. Maybe the author was right when he wrote, "The true artist finds that the materials for his art are ever present, but the ones who can discern the possible uses of these varied materials, and who possess the instinct, intuition, and training to put them to their best uses are always few in number. The materials out of which art is made are ever present, but the artist appears only at intervals. So it is with the mysterious force we call life. Every person has it, but the ones who understand and use life's finest possibilities, and who get out of it, consequently, its very richest growth, are really very few in number. So let us put into this study of life our very noblest personal energy. Pupil, it seems to me, judging from what you say here, and from what you have already taught us in these lessons, that our perfecting of the art of living and loving it is based upon the training of the mind and feeling to the point where we shall find as much joy and satisfaction in self-discipline as we formerly found in self-indulgences. Am I right? Master, yes. Once one has gone that far on the path, he is then around the last turn, and on the way that is straight, the path of splendor that leads directly to conscious union with the Father. The Bible says the art of really living and loving life centers around the record of man's thoughts and feelings, his aspirations, inspirations, and experiences, on his discovery of the life spirit as an ever-present help in trouble. When a man has found his real self, the God self, or Christ radiance within, when he has discovered the infinite possibilities and potentialities with which he is forever surrounded. When he lives these things and loves the life he lives, he becomes the true artist. Then will he use the right materials? Then will he produce the results desired in the form of the picture that he originally conceived? Pupil, suppose one has never had the advantages of higher education, that one's whole life has been commonplace and restricted. Would such a one be able to understand and apply these beautiful and interesting truths? Master, yes indeed. One's station in life does not make the slightest difference. One may be a woman who is trying to cook a good meal in the one and only room that she has, on a one-burner gas stove. One may be a man who is a shoe salesman, and who spends his whole time every day trying to satisfy women customers who insist upon his trying to perfectly and comfortably fit dainty shoes to their large feet. One may be a king or queen, or a servant or a pauper. High or low, exalted or humble, man is a spiritual being. So long as he can think, he can always change the outer or physical effects to suit the desire of his heart. And the very first steps lie in the thought and in the feeling. Pupil, when one's whole environment is one of poverty or illness or other dark limitations, how can one have beautiful and hopeful thoughts? Is it not true that the environment influences one's thoughts and feelings, while one is forced to live in the same adverse environment? I do not see how there can be much change. Master, if one were perfectly satisfied with an environment such as you described, there could not and would not be any change. But if one were divinely dissatisfied with such conditions, and very much wished to change them, it may be done any time, as completely as one may wish, by resort to and use of the laws of life. Suppose, for example, that you would like a position that is more agreeable, more lucrative, shorter hours, etc. If you go forth to look for such a job, by all means, start out with the feeling that you have something valuable to give an employer, and not go out to see how much you can get. If you give, the getting will automatically follow. Carry the light of God consciousness with you in seeking betterment of your position, and when you approach your prospective employer, let the light shine. Suppose too, that you wish a better, more comfortable house in which to live. The very fact that you desire this change is proof positive that it is for you to have if you will meet the requirements. Many persons try to bring harmony into a home by getting a larger and better home, or by changing companions, by moving into another community. Pupil, that would help, would it not? Master, temporarily it might, but it would in no sense endure. To attempt to bring happiness or freedom into one's life through outward changes only is not wisdom, is not true art. Such is misuse of the divine materials. The change must occur within, and within first. It must first be established in mind, and firmly enthroned there, if it is to be other than only temporarily effective. As long as a trend of thought remains the same, the result will be the same. The law of life is, to change an effect, the cause must be changed first. Cause leads, effects follow. Thought is the cause, conditions are the effects. Pupil, does one's longing for beautiful surroundings, for health and freedom, for a lovely picture in perfect balance, come from the great artist who has made all of nature? Is it he painting his ideal picture for us on the canvas of our individual minds? Master, yes. God is mind, life, intelligence, power, beauty, love, harmony, etc. If any of these things are desired by us, and they are, then surely the Creator of them all must have planted that thought seed in the mind. He must have whispered into that mental ear and that spiritual heart that the truth is yours. God has chosen you as a holy instrument, through which to manifest all of His beautiful and wonderful qualities of life. It is the divine order and will that you should manifest that particular thing, that particular place in life. Chapter 4. God consciousness versus sense consciousness. Pupil. Then, if our truly fine desires are the desires of God Himself trying to manifest in and through us as individuals, in some particular way, why are there so many misfits in life? Why are there so very few who are really doing just what they would like to do? Why are there so very, very few living the life they truly wish to live? Why? Surely God can fulfill His own desires. Master, unless all things are possible to God, then nothing is possible to Him. God has projected each human forth from Himself, each of us possessing an individual mind for the sole purpose of manifesting Himself and His glory through us. Verily, the mind of man is the Son of God. The Son has been given absolute liberty. Each can always make of his life, for a time at least, whatsoever he may choose. Man already possesses everything that God had to give him. Each person can make or mar his own picture exactly as he wishes. By nature, man is free to draw from the ever-present parent mind anything and all things that he requires to fulfill his desires. If this is not true, then God's highest creation, man, is a mere nothing, an automatic something like a clock which when once wound will run until it runs down. Man is, however, God's own idea in flesh. The intelligent life in man is man's divine Father. Man is already perfect and complete, made of the same essence as his Father God. There is only one reason why every mortal does not manifest and reproduce the life, love and beauty, which we see brought out in such radiance and perfection in all of nature, manifested in nature to the extreme point where mechanical and automatic actions can bring them. But we as individuals have a law of being that is somewhat different in one way from that which governs the other. Creatures that are of the world we call nature. For us that are human, the only perfect reproduction of life, love, power and beauty that we can ever know must come from liberty. That is to say, we have freedom of choice that is commensurate with that of the originating life spirit itself. In other words, we as individuals have the liberty of accepting or rejecting either good or evil, exactly as we may choose them, and the choice that we make results from the state of our consciousness. If we are God-conscious, we are gods, but if we are sense-conscious only, then we are creatures of darkness, of illness, of poverty, of loneliness. Pupil, you have given us a powerful and illuminating dose here. Already we have a whole lesson, but I still do not see why God's highest creation, man, should ever reject any of the good things of life. Master, if man really understood the law of his own being, he never should reject the good things. But there are few who fully understand this law, which is a wide open door to absolute freedom. Most people believe that the law of their being, purposely spelled without capital letters, is a law of limitation rather than a law of absolute liberty. Man does not expect to find the starting point of the creative process reproduced in himself, so he looks to the mechanical side of things for the basis of his reasoning about life. Consequently, his reasoning leads him to the conclusion that life is limited because he has assumed limitation as his premise. And so, logically, he cannot escape from it, limitation, in his conclusion. Here in this wonderful quotation from Troward, you have the whole story of limitation. Here Troward shows most clearly that is all a matter of consciousness. And so the tragedy results because man in his dense ignorance ridicules the idea of transcending the law of limitation, forgetting completely, if indeed he ever learned it, that the law can include all of the lower laws so fully as to completely swallow them. Pupil, from what you say, it would seem that man's only reason for knowing limitation of any kind is his own lack of understanding. Is man to blame because he does not know? Master, no man is to blame for what he does not know. But surely all persons will suffer because of not using what they do know, and they shall keep right on suffering until, like small children, they learn from experience. Pupil, it seems strange, to say the least, that each of us must learn to find his own fuller life in his own way. Why did not God compel his idea man to understand from birth that life is joy, and joy is freedom, etc.? Master, please think for just a minute. Would there be any freedom, any liberty in that kind of person? Such an individual should be a mere automaton with no sense of liberty at all. God forbid that any of us, his children, become robots. Pupil, it seems to me that most people feel life is entirely made up of a constant round of prosaic and homely activities, which we are obliged to follow. To the shop or office we go. We toil and slave, and go home again, all worn out and cranky. We sleep, maybe, then arise to repeat it all again for years until in God's mercy we die. There can be no real joy in that kind of life, but to most of mankind that is all. Still, this is not all, is it? Master, indeed that is not all. Not even for the darkest and most limited of persons. However dark, spiritually and materially a person may be, deep down in his soul there is a conviction that life holds his desires fulfilled somehow, somewhere, sometime. He feels also that if he only knew how he could find a way. Some feel that the real joy of liberty can come only after putting off the body at death. This is not the case, however. Everything that life God has to give is here in our midst, and right now. As we humans advance in knowledge, either from study or experience or both, we overcome one law of limitation after another by finding the higher and greater law, of which all lower laws are but partial expressions. At length we see clearly before us, as our ultimate goal, this truth, nothing less than the perfect law of liberty. Not liberty without law, which is anarchy, but liberty according to law. When man learns the law of his own being, he will specialize it in all of his ways and will have found his true place. Thus will he bring into form all of the desires of his heart. Then will he know the real art of living. Pupil, can anyone who will learn from life, either by study or experience, that the creative energy, with all that it has to give, is an ever-present, responsive quality of life? Then can one really materialize, really bring into outward form, his most secret and sacred desires? That would be the art of living, sure enough. Master, the law of life is changeless forever. It is always calling to you in these words, or in ones like them. Come unto me, learn about me. Through me all things are possible unto you, because we, you and I, are eternally one. I am life. I am creative. I am always responsive to the thoughts and emotions with which I am impressed by you. I am mind. The law of mind is my law. Because this is true, it is truth also that, as you think in your heart, so are you. Thinking gives form to the unformed life. Pupil, this is splendid. But again it is getting heavy. May we have another personal illustration of the adaptation of this principle to everyday living as people live it. This will help, I am sure. Master, all right, I am always happy to comply with such requests if they will really help you. I once knew a dentist, a very fine dentist and a good man. He confided to me one day that music was his very life, and not prosaic dentistry. He said that he was weary of being down in the mouth all of the time. So, I asked, you feel that you are not in your right place? I know that I am not, he replied. Just why aren't you in your right groove? I queried. Because music will not yield me enough money to keep my family in anything like moderate comfort. I feel that marriage and a family are among life's deepest joys and greatest blessings. But music is like politics. One has to have lots of pull to get into the few places that will really pay for a good violinist. Are you sure of that? I asked. Yes, quite. Well, Mr. Dentist, I said, I know a God who is all-intelligent, all-powerful, ever-present, ever-responsive, and forever creative. He is also the greatest of master artists, the real maestro. He lives forever deep within your own soul. If you will try going into him there, if you will establish harmony there, and will know and understand the beauty which your music must express there, and if you will be content only with perfection there, and in your music, I know that you can and will reap all the reward that anyone can wish for in music, just as in any other profession, art or business. Your words cause my hopes to soar, he said. But how can one like me, one who knows very little about God, contact him? Go within yourself, go through or beneath the confusing, bewildering, disheartening past experiences. Live wholly in and enjoy only the harmonious side of your nature, which is wise, beautiful, and most powerful in all ways. Then practice, practice, practice putting that inner beauty and harmony into vibration through the strings of your violin. But I am too old to take this up now. Not at all. Loving music as you do, you have kept up with your practice, have you not? Then do try what I have told you. Try it with faith and love in your heart. Hold them there with a determination and pride which simply will not surrender. The dentist continued to find excuses, many of them, like so many people do, tragically enough. He did not have time, nor did he feel like it, after long, hard days at the office. He should have to give some time to his family, must have some recreation, etc., etc. But I did not hear him. I kept right on singing glowing word notes for him, tempting him to try hard, inspiring him with courage. When he stopped finding excuses and seemed really interested, he asked for the exact method to use. I told him the following steps. 1. First, he must thoroughly make up his mind that his love for music, his deep passion for the expression of harmony was no accident. He must know that it was nothing less than God himself persistently, relentlessly urging for expression through him. 2. He should go carefully over and recite to himself the Lord's Prayer, quietly but with much love and feeling, not less than twice every day, each night upon retiring, and each morning when he first awakened. 3. He should faithfully visualize himself playing, joyfully, harmoniously, enthusiastically playing to large and most appreciative audiences, receiving really handsome checks for his concerts, etc. 4. After his periods of visualizing, he should faithfully use some affirmation that appealed to him, that would strengthen his faith when it sagged, that would feed his high resolve, that would fan his burning urge to a holy flame. 5. He should practice his music, striving always with all of his heart and soul to do much better with each rendition than he had ever done before. Within less than 1 year, the dentist became the musician. He was making more from his potboiler concerts than he had ever made at dentistry. Within another half year, he began a national concert tour, which within a few months yielded him enough to go to Europe for additional study for 2 years, and to have his family with him over there. Since that time he has done nothing, professionally, but play his violin. He has not, of course, accumulated a really great fortune, but he and his loved ones have all of the good things of life that they wish. And this, combined with an abiding sense of happiness, constitutes true wealth for any person. Pupil, does this same plan apply to everyone? And the same steps? Master, the same principles apply to all. The exact plan and the steps that lead to its fulfillment will vary a little, of course, with each specific case. But no matter what your big desire may be, your Father's dearest wish for you is the absolute fulfillment of that desire by you in partnership with Him. He always longs to give you any and all good things. His whole purpose in having created you was that He might express Himself through you. This is exactly why He created individuals, and this is why He does live in and through them. If we would have any of His gifts as our very own, We need only to lift up our fallen consciousness to this holy belief, and then work in sheer joy and expectation towards the lovely vision we have in view. Chapter 5. Personal Intimacy with God. Pupil, please tell me a definite way to get closer to God, to push the little love and understanding that I have further into the great oneness, until my limited vision is completely absorbed in the unlimited. Will you do this just for me? Master, gladly. Since this is your own book, you may take all the time that you require, and at such intervals as you please, to study it, then study it still some more, and to practice it until you have really mastered it and made it a part of your very self. The very best way to completely sublimate your human self, your sense self, with all of its limitations, into the infinite, is to establish within yourself a personal intimacy with God. Pupil, but can this be done? Do you mean to say that we may actually be on terms of personal intimacy with God, as with a friend or other loved one? Such a thing seems too good to be true, too strange and mysterious to believe. Master, yes, this can be done. In fact, it is done in each of us at all times, whether or not we are aware of it. Remember always that each of us was made by and out of the same stuff as the ever-present, intelligent, creative life itself. Each of us was fashioned out of it itself, and each of us is it itself in a physical form. This being so, it automatically follows that each of us is always in a most personal intimacy with God. God is our maker, our very life, our body, our thoughts, our desires, our everything. Pupil, then why are there any troubles at all in this world? Why is not the lot of every person peace, joy, and perfection at all times? Master, that question I have answered a number of times in one form or another. But yet once again let me say that it is all a matter of each individual's own consciousness. Our thoughts make us what we are. The whole shape of our lives, and of what we call conditions, take their form from our most habitual thought and feeling. Don't ever lose sight of this outstandingly important fact. The originating creative power is unformed relative to your individual life, until it flows through your thought. It is throughout constant awareness of the truth that God is ever resident within us, is forever flowing through us as thought, that we are lifted right out of the old, limited habits of judging everything from external appearances, or from sense consciousness only. Pupil, but I still do not quite see how this awareness will change the whole life from darkness to light. Just how will it do it? Master, if you are constantly aware of the fact that you really are God Himself in miniature, that you are always on terms of personal intimacy with Him as with your own self, then you will not any longer think thoughts that are unlike Him. You will not think thoughts of limitation of any nature. You will not judge anything or anybody from the standpoint of sense consciousness. And when you have changed your thoughts and feelings to the point where you are habitually thinking only from the spiritual side of things, you will readily discover that to really know God is to be God. Then indeed are you in constant personal intimacy with God, and you will leave far behind you the dismal bogs of failure, lack, disease, loneliness, and despair. You will emerge into, and abide securely in, the green pastures of the fulfillment of your every treasured desire. Persist, persist, and yet again persist, in your steady recognition of the truth, that the actual purpose of the divine in having projected you into being from its own bosom, was this and this only. That it might continually flow through you as consciousness, and that it might always specialize in you as health, wealth, peace, and joy. Through this realization, you lift your thought and feeling above limitations, and this is the solution to every problem. Yes, Through the radiant gate of personal intimacy with God, we step into a new world in which all is life and liberty. Truly, God is an ever-present, everywhere, all the time, loving, responsive, creative power. Pupil, since you often encourage us to use the Bible as a standard and a way shower, can you refer us to a place in the Bible in which we are given a means of establishing this conscious personal intimacy with God? Master, certainly. The Bible is replete with illustrations of this very principle. For instance, let's turn to St. Matthew, chapter 22, verses 36, 37, 30-8, 39 and 40th. And note what Jesus, the greatest of all great teachers, says there. Let us study it and analyze it carefully. Here it is, verse 36. Master, what is the great commandment in the law? This question, asked of Jesus by the lawyer, was one of vital importance, and in the answer that Jesus gave is the golden key that millions desire. Note the reply below. B. Verses 37 and 38. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. Kindly note very carefully and ponder deeply the three steps that are united into one through his use of the word love. The heart, the soul, and the mind constitute all of the spiritual being. Hence, if we really love God with all of our heart and soul and mind, we are in fact loving him with all of our all. Is this not true? Indeed it is. Here then we have Jesus' own way, his own method, of establishing within himself personal intimacy with God. See verses 39 and 40. Read thus, And the second commandment is like unto it, like unto the first one. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Please observe here the tremendous importance that Jesus places upon loving our neighbors as we love our own selves. There are many who pay lip service to this divine injunction, and who profess that they really do love their neighbors as themselves. But when it comes to the crucial test of dividing their possessions in love with a less fortunate neighbor, or of going to any extremity of trouble for him, their protestations of love for the neighbors are far too often found to be only mere words, shallow and empty and vain. So remember this, in words without deeds to support them there is no virtue. It is a fact that our neighbors, every last one of them, are as precious in the sight of God as we are. In truth, our neighbors are an integral part of ourselves, in other forms. It is a fact also that we cannot really love God unless we love our neighbor. And it is a still greater truth that if we do love our neighbor as we love ourselves, we are loving God. God is one, yet most of us make the tragic mistake of thinking that God is many, that our neighbor is one person, and we another, etc. The divine reality, however, is that all people, yes, every last one of the millions and millions on earth, are one body unified forever in God. This being so, it is impossible for us to help a neighbor, who is ourself, without also helping ourselves. Neither can we criticize, condemn, or injure a neighbor who is ourself, without doing ourselves greater harm than is done to the neighbor. In personal intimacy with God there is, in reality, no neighbor and no self, as two persons, as ones separate and apart from each other. Rather, each of us is also all other persons, and all other persons are our own selves. When the dwellers on earth learn this all-important lesson that Jesus taught, and when all persons are obedient to this law, then we shall have the millennium here in our midst. Then will all of us be veritable angels of the one divine body. Pupil, this is a most beautiful and powerful illustration. In addition to studying about it and thinking about it, what else should we do about it? Master, the most important thing of all is to practice it. to live it. Otherwise there is no virtue in it at all. If you can accept these words of Jesus as truth, then ally yourself with them in your thought and feeling and actions, then will your whole being be fed with spiritual manna. You will be given constant suggestions by the Spirit regarding the sanest and most fruitful methods of living your own personal life in true unity with God. Pupil, and will this not develop still more in us that great essential to which you gave such importance in lesson number 1, namely a good disposition? Master, indeed it will, and no age in all of history has ever more needed to learn and practice this great lesson of growth, development, and true enrichment than the people of today. Many read the truth, few assimilate it. Many hear the truth, few heed it. Many know the truth, few do it. That is exactly why there is a real master, only at long and rare intervals. The price of mastery is really easy, but it is so much contrary to sense consciousness, out of which all selfishness is born, that few have the courage, the faith, and the spiritual stamina, and the love to try it earnestly or to stick to it through outward confusion until it has been proved. Pupil, is there any other method you can think of that will help us to understand this great law still better? Are there any shortcuts? In the study, I mean, not in the practice of it. Master, yes, there are shortcuts from which a truly observant and intelligent person may find this law actually fulfilled in beautiful harmony, and from which we humans may learn a very great deal if we will. Perhaps the greatest of these shortcuts to illumination is the one that is most widely distributed, and to which every last soul has access in one form or another, and with very little trouble if they sincerely wish to seek it out. I mean nature, of course. All of nature shows forth the glory of living in constant personal intimacy with God. By way of example of what I mean, let us briefly study the 4 seasons of the year, and the reaction of nature to each. Spring, in all of nature, is the period of immortality expressed anew, and in wonderful splendor. It is the season of budding, of flowering, of mating, of generation, and of regeneration, all of which are among the holiest of the functions of nature. And mark well how all of Dame Nature's children are always obedient to the urge of spring, to the sublime song of the Spirit. Only men are rebellious to the holy commands of the Spirit, and it appears quite obvious that only men sin. How long will it be before we who are human awaken to the true glory that is our divine birthright? In the realm of nature, summer is the time when fruits are formed, developed, and ripened in fulfillment of the law of the Spirit. It is the season when seeds are formed within the fruits, so that with the coming of another spring, all of nature may obey again the great injunction found so often in the account of creation in Genesis, namely, "Be ye fruitful and multiply, and fill the face of the earth with fruit." With the autumn comes the precious harvest, the time when the radiant promise that was given in the spring is fulfilled in form, just as every promise of the Spirit to us will surely be manifested in form in our lives, and with a most bountiful harvest. If only we humans will learn to obey the Spirit without question, as do the fair children of nature, and cease our foolish rebellion that is the one and only source of all of our afflictions. Then follows the winter, and nature rests from its labors of the spring, summer, and fall, just as we also must have our periods of rest. But winter positively is not aging, or decadence, or death, not in nature. It is the season of rest, of slumber only. But if you want to think that winter is the symbol of death, as some people insist upon doing, I will agree with you for a minute solely for the purpose of pointing out the fallacy of death, or the belief in death, as clearly revealed by nature. In winter, nature does appear dead. But is it dead? By no means. With the first few warm days of spring, the life which has been merely somnolent in nature, but which has not perished because it cannot perish, not ever again responds. The buds, animated anew by the vitality of the Spirit, swell and burst, and the leaves and flowers that were hidden from view, but then nevertheless come harmoniously, joyously forth in their beauty and glory to express immortality. As nature does, so may man do also, if he only will. If you would know true illumination, and the power and the glory that are born of it, go thou to nature. Study her ways and be wise. Study her ways and really live.